Now, it's time to talk travel and a bit of a different travel segment today because we're not doing our usual thing of focusing on a particular destination or cluster of destinations. I want to make sure that everybody knows about a quite significant change around outgoing and incoming international travel for South Africans, one that took effect on the 1st of July. And I was away at the time. During our recent travels, we were a little bit astonished to thankfully hear from a colleague who said, hey, have you done that thing on the app that you need to do before you come home tomorrow? And we went, what thing, what app, what are you talking about? We didn't know that SARS had introduced a new customs declaration requirement. There was very little, I think, pre-publicity around it, certainly none that I saw. And there hadn't been any kind of advertising at the airport when we left at the end of June. And I didn't see any on arrival home in mid-July either, I have to say. So I was relieved to hear earlier today from our listener, Alan, that when his brother came in from Heathrow last weekend, there were actually officials on the ground helping people with the process. I have to say this, having gone through the process in quite a hurry from overseas, look, at the end of the day, it's actually a fairly easy online process to navigate. It's not without some glitches, though, and I have been aware of a good many travellers on social media sites saying that they've been struggling with particular aspects, and I'm also aware that there are plenty of people who still just don't know anything about it at all. So we thought, let's use our travel segment today to fill you in on what is required, what you have to do, what sort of documents you need to hand when you're filling out this new form, and how to go about it. Joining us on the line to help us through the process, it's a great pleasure to welcome Zay Ferguson, who is Customer Experience Leader at Flight Centre Travel Group South Africa. Zay, great to have you with us this afternoon. Thanks for your time.
Oh, good afternoon, Pippa. Thank you so much for inviting us.
It's a pleasure.
I'm excited to be on the show.
Thank you. Zay, effectively, this is an online form that is meant to replace the old physical paper declarations that sometimes one had to make. Can we start there? Can you explain what the new traveller declaration is and what it's intended to replace?
Definitely. So exactly what you said. It's meant to replace the paper forms. When we leave the country and enter the country, a lot of us go do shopping or we leave with high-value items, but we don't necessarily declare it, and there's no ways for SARS to actually know whether we had the items before we left or not. So this is why they've actually implemented the forms. It's new for us because they've made it compulsory from the 1st of July. However, they have been trialling the system for the last 2 years.
Really? Okay, so Zay, was I just particularly ignorant or not noticing communication around this, because it caught me completely by surprise that this had been introduced? So I'm astonished to hear you say it's actually been trialled for 2 years already.
It has, actually. I think when they launched the trial originally, it was similar to what we have now, where people have a little bit of panic because, it is a government institution. So I think a lot of us go into, it's heavy admin. So what they did is 2 years ago, they set it out. It did set people into a little bit of a panic. They didn't make it compulsory, and they were just testing it to see how does the system work, how easy is it, how does this work, and how does it integrate with, SARB and the different places. And, over the last 2 years, I guess they've refined it, and that's why they've possibly made it now compulsory from the 1st of July. You are correct when you said there wasn't too much publicity around them making it, compulsory from the 1st, but it was a deadline that they set out about 2 years ago.
Okay, all right. Thanks for explaining that. Keith writing in to say, when last did anybody fill out that paper declaration? For years we had to complete those forms, but even about 15 years ago they were phased out by most countries, and now all of a sudden this is being implemented again online. Keith is wondering why the decision to re-implement the system. It seems like we're going backwards. Would you like to respond?
I don't think it's going backwards. I think if we look at the communication that SARS has put out, it's more regulating, the country between the revenue service and the SARB with, the new laws in place with how much cash can actually physically leave the country at a time, how much can come in, and how much you're allowed on an annual basis. So I think it's probably more stringent measures around how do we actually track and trace all of that, where in the past we didn't actually have a set system to do that.
Yeah. Zay, I have to be honest, in all of the years that I've been traveling, I've never once been called aside by the customs people to check my suitcase or look at anything. It must say something about how shabby I look coming in, or the state of my suitcase. I can only imagine that they take one look and go, well, she didn't buy anything of high value while she was away. But in all seriousness, what is SARS needing to be declared? You've mentioned cash, which is obviously a very big part of the regulatory conversation here. But what else should one be declaring that one now will do in the app versus in person or on a paper form as you did in the past? What are the key things listeners should think about having to declare?
So anything that we've bought overseas that's, in excess of 5,000 Rand in value. So anything under 5,000 you can declare. You don't have to worry about taxes or anything additional to that. But what SARS has said is the duty-free allowances that they're allowing is items up to 5,000 Rand. Additional goods can be purchased up to 20,000. So if the amounts exceed 25,000, for example, if we're buying electronics or high-value items internationally, you could be subject to additional taxes and duties when you come back to South Africa. So it's all dependent on the value of the items and what we have physically declared.
Okay, thanks for explaining that. Sarah writing in to say, we came through this morning with 3 huge flights that all landed at the same time. We thought we would have to queue to do our declaration, but they just said, have you done it online? Everyone said yes, and we all walked through. They didn't ask for any proof whatsoever. Nobody stopped us to ask. We had our proof saved on our phones because we did scramble to do it before we came home, and certainly nobody stopped us to ask either, Sarah. But the point is, if they had, you need to be able to show that you've done it. So, Zay, maybe let's right now take some time to just talk listeners through what is actually involved. Firstly, you need to go and download the app, which is the SA Travel Manager Service, SATMS, for the Customs Traveller Declaration. And you need to set up a profile on that app to register as a user. What happens next?
So once you've done that, just another step, if I could say, even if you don't download the app, on the SARS website itself, it does have a link where you can go in and declare. Okay. So you don't physically have to download the app itself.
Okay.
It's quite an easy form to go through and do it via the SARS website. Once you've gotten in, just make sure you have your passport details, your travel itinerary showing your dates that you are entering and exiting the country from, contact information. If you're traveling with any, children, ill members of the family, elderly family members, have their details close by. And then obviously the items information that you are declaring as well once you are in the app.
Now, as I said, once we got registered and used the app, it was pretty easy. The one thing I want to flag, Zay, is the timing. You need to fill out that declaration within 24 hours of your flight. And that was something we found quite difficult. The pressure, because we were in transit the whole of our last day without access to reliable internet. When you're sitting on moving trains, etc., that didn't always have internet access or Wi-Fi available, it gets a little bit tricky, but that is what the app asks of you. Can you talk to us about when you need to do this process? It's both on departure and arrival.
Correct. You are correct. So departure and arrival 24 hours before. And I like that you actually mentioned the point of, it's quite difficult on trains and with Wi-Fi, which is why currently SARS is not actually penalizing people who can't get to it. So if you have a valid reason where you weren't in a Wi-Fi zone or something, depending on the ports, you might have self-service stations, or like the traveller mentioned, the traveller coming in from Heathrow, that there might still be paper forms that SARS will be handling and assisting clients with. It's not that they are going to turn you away or deny you boarding. It's just, if you can do it, it's going to save you a lot of time at the airports, because I think, patience is not one of our top attributes that we have.
Understatement, yeah. I just want to say, for anybody who's coming in midway to this conversation, we are chatting to Zay Ferguson, who's the Customer Experience Leader at Flight Centre Travel Group South Africa, talking about the introduction of the new SARS Customs Declaration in electronic form, which took effect on the 1st of July and is now compulsory both when you leave the country and when you come back again. Zay, somebody asking why we have to do it when we leave the country. They understand the necessity to declare things you've bought overseas and to pay duties where needed, but asking, can you please elaborate on why we have to do it when we are departing from South Africa?
So when you're departing, from what SARS has put out there, is they need to then ensure that the items that you've declared leaving is not, or it's the same items that you're coming in with. So for example, if you're leaving with a Apple laptop or something, they do ask for the IMEI number on the device itself, so that when you come back, they might do a cross-reference and confirm that it's the same device. And it's not that you claim that you left with it and now you're coming in with a new device. So they are just trying to track that everything is above board with travelers.
It's such an important point, that, because it's something I think very few of us think to do, that, you know, you're heading overseas, you maybe take your laptop or iPad with you because you think you might want to do a bit of work or download your photos or whatever it is, and don't think to declare it. And I have over the years once or twice heard of people who got hit with problems when they came back in, bringing back the same laptop that was theirs that they had taken with them, and having a real tricky situation with SARS trying to say, but hang on, can you prove you didn't buy this overseas and don't owe us any duties on it? So I think it's a good thing to be reminding people of that necessity. Ryan is asking on the WhatsApp whether any other countries are doing something like this. He says, I can't recall any other place expecting this.
So there are quite a few countries doing it. They might do it in a different form, but every country is trying to track, currency or values, or prevent money laundering from happening, via various forms and ways. So they'll have their own declarations in different forms.
Okay. Kathy writing in with her experience, she says, we travelled recently and the airline, which was Lufthansa, added the link to submit the SARS declaration. It was a bit glitchy as I wasn't able to add all of the dependents who were travelling with us. I also tried to download the app and it wasn't a great experience, is Kathy's feedback. Kathy, thanks for that. Yeah, I mean, as I said, my major issue with it was around the date. And in the end, we sat there going, what do we do? Because we know we're not going to be in a position to be able to fill this out 24 hours in advance. We're now 30 hours in advance, and we eventually just put it the wrong date and thought we'll have to explain to somebody if they ask why we arrived on the 10th, not the 9th, kind of thing. And Zay, that was the only glitch that we experienced. The rest of it was fairly easy to follow, and my kids did their separate applications and didn't have any issues. So I think once you just wrap your head around the fact that you now need to do it, and to find the right way, the right link to do so, it's not particularly onerous. But I say that as a leisure traveller. Maybe let's talk a little bit about business travel. Zay, is the form any different for somebody who is travelling for business purposes than it is for a leisure traveller?
So there is an option for business travellers to select that they are travelling for business, because remember, business travellers would be travelling with higher value of goods. They might be travelling with gifts for clients, or they might be coming back with gifts. So business travellers do also same sort of amount, but their form slightly different, or they have a slightly different selection to a leisure traveller, but exactly the same process.
Okay. A few people asking us to please confirm the links, etc. So if you want to look for the app, it is the SATMS app. Once you click on it, it says South African Customs Traveller Declaration. And on that landing site, you will be asked to either log in if you've been there before or to register if you're a first-time user. And then it's fairly self-explanatory to follow it. It's got the little SARS logo at the bottom of the landing page. So you're looking for SATMS app, and it came up very easily when I searched for it in the App Store. Lindy asking, what is the correct SARS website? There's so many scams around. I'm scared of clicking on the wrong link. Lindy, the official SARS website is sars.gov.za. Zay, I haven't actually taken the time to go and look, but I'm logging in as I speak now, and I can see second line from the top line of icons is the traveller declaration. So it's pretty easy to find if you'd prefer to do the website thing as well.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And I think, Pippa, one thing that's quite important for the listeners is a lot of them think that because clients haven't been asked that there's no need to do it. Please rather do it, because there's nothing worse than getting fined for your own stuff or getting fined for not declaring. So rather be safe than end up in a predicament that's not going to be too pleasant.
Okay, I appreciate that warning. I think we've got time to squeeze in one last question. It's a very good one from one of our listeners who I know is based overseas. Does the form have to be completed if you are transiting through South Africa?
If you are transiting, no. It's only when you are entering physically into South Africa or exiting. But for transit travellers, this is not a requirement for them.
Okay, Philippa, glad you asked though. Thank you so much. Zay, anything else you'd like our listeners to know that I should have asked you about or you'd like to flag?
I think we've covered everything. I think the biggest thing is It is a government system, but I promise, as you've mentioned, it's not as difficult as we've all made it, out to be. So just try it. Give it a go and save yourself time at the airport.
Thanks so much for your time. Zay Ferguson, Customer Experience Leader at Flight Centre Travel Group, South Africa. So one last time, the app is SATMS, and the website, if you'd rather do it online, it's the sars.gov.za website. And on the left-hand side of the landing page there, you'll see a series of grey blocks that have got clicks through to various subcategories, and the traveller declaration is in the second line of those options. So pretty self-explanatory once you're into the app to use it and fill it out. It is it's a bit of a pain. It's the last thing you want to do when you're coming to the end of your holiday and trying to enjoy your last day. But as they said, rather cover yourself and avoid unexpected fines and duties, or worse yet, confiscation of items, etc. What a terrible way to end a holiday. Rather just get it done, and appreciate that update from Flight Centre.